right, and welcome back into In the Work podcast. I'm Matt Bresee, the host of the show with Action Coach Erie. And today, my guest is Jim McEldowney. Jim is the CEO of the YMCA of Greater Erie. And for those that might be listening, wherever they are, might be in the world, Greater Erie is here in Northwest Pennsylvania. Jim, thanks for taking some time this morning to talk.
Thank you, Matt, for inviting me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, so Jim, I've had kind of I'll say a little bit of a front row seat. Born and raised here in the area, live not far from the YMCA facility. And of course, people generally are familiar with who the YMCA is and what the YMCA is. So I'd like to start with you a little bit because I think as the YMCA goes, I think you personally have a pretty cool, unique story, a bit of a legacy as it is. So just to tell our viewers just a little about yourself, your original connections with the YMCA, and sort of briefly summarize kind of what your journey has been and the seat you sit in today.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I think what you're speaking about is I'm actually a second generation Y professional. My father had a 43-year career with the YMCA mostly in Wheeling, West Virginia, where I'm originally from. I moved to Erie in 1992. However, I've been involved with the Y my entire life. I always like to share that, not only did I learn to swim at the Y, I learned to do a lot of different things at the Y behind the scenes. I would always share the story when I was very young. It was a very small town, and my dad was the executive director of that particular one branch and one offsite location. And when you're the executive director in a small location, you do a lot of the different things. And he would be the one that would share duties to go backwash the pools, things like that. And I had the privilege of, asking to come and join him. So I really got a great perspective and a love for the Y and the things that they did there. My first memory of the Y, other than learning to swim, we used to have big wheel competitions that they used to do at the Y. And I remember my last competition, I made it to the finals against my very best friend, next door neighbor, and he beat me. And I was very sad. He got a trophy and I only got a ribbon. So, anyway, the Y's been part of my life for a very, very long time. So, as I mentioned, I moved to Erie in 1992. The Y was actually not in on my radar as a career when I was in college. My dad actually had retired when I was a sophomore in college, and it really wasn't on my radar. However, when I moved to Erie, because of my connection to the Y, I had joined the Y, but I also wanted to volunteer. So I had asked, was there any volunteer opportunities? I was immediately plugged in as a youth sports referee on Saturdays, and then I ran the score clock and kept the book for the adult men's basketball league on Monday nights. So I did that for about a year until the advertising job that I had in 1993. I was laid off, and I walked into the executive director's office at the Glenwood Y and said, "You now need to pay me for what I do here." And he thought he got the laugh out of that. But out of that, I continued to do the things, keeping score. I was given more opportunities to help organize leagues. I became a lifeguard and then eventually a lifeguard instructor. I was a janitor, you name it. I did
Mm.
all of those things. And I kind of just, um, I guess, re-energized myself for the love of the why. And from there, it took off, and I had an opportunity in the mid 90s to apply for the program director's job at the Glenwood location, and I got that. And ever since then, I've been with the Erie Association now in my 33rd year. So, and I've been in various capacities. I've actually overseen the operations of all of the branches except Eastside. My wife and I actually lived at Camp Sherwin for 7 years while I was overseeing the operations there. Actually, simultaneously, I was doing that and running the County Y in Edinboro. Our kids were born there, our two oldest. So yeah, it's been a great experience and it's just been a lot of fun.
Fantastic. And 3 years now, I believe, in the CEO seat. Is that right?
Well, it'll be 3 years in October, yes.
Great. So yeah, just kind of an incredible journey. And one of the perspectives, again, just sort of for the theme of the show. I mean, we talk about in the work. You lived at Camp Sherwin for 7 years. You're literally living
Literally
in it,
24/7.
right? Talk a little bit about that, but also the perspective of just having done so many various jobs, various roles, kind of working your way through the organization, be it even in different cities, going from volunteer to now the seat that you're in. What as you reflect on that, what value does that hold as far as now when you lead and you work with your team, of which I believe when we spoke, you estimate somewhere around 500 people between employees, part-time, full-time, volunteers, et cetera. So you've got just here in Northwest Pennsylvania, 500 people that you now are leading. Just talk about kind of that perspective of having kind of been in their shoes, so to speak, because you've done the various roles. What kind of perspective does that give you now from your seat as CEO?
Yeah, that's a great observation, Matt. I think about that often because when I hear staff maybe struggling with, whether it's, that something's not working out, or there's actually if they're a supervisor and they're struggling with some of the folks that they're supervising, I think back to the times when I was in their seat, so to speak. And I try to go at it in an angle of where I'm not, I don't know it all and I'm not a know-it-all, but I am at least empathetic to say, I understand where you are. I've been there, and really just listen, and then use the lens of my time in those roles to help reflect on, how I felt and how I had different struggles and how I overcame them, and just share them. But then, give them the opportunity to just listen to me and form their own path, and not me just saying, well, I think sometimes folks get into well, this is how I did it, try it this way or do it this way. And I try not to take that approach. It's just like, this is how it affected me. This is what I did to overcome it. And these are just more of just, how I dealt with it. And I would hope that that approach is a little bit better than just saying, maybe you should do it this way because that's how it was done in the past. I'm certainly one who has no problem with change. I welcome change. So my experiences have helped me to understand that change is needed, and I hope that is instilled in the people that I oversee.
Well, I appreciate what you said there because it sounds like on the first part when you talked about kind of that balance of you certainly have tremendous experience. So it's that balance of sort of sharing your experience and your expertise and your institutional knowledge, but allowing, in a lot of cases, allowing them, those you lead or those needing to make decisions or looking at new ways of doing things, being open to that, right? So it sounds like that's that kind of delicate balance. Have you always been that way, or was there a point in time, is that sort of that evolvement in leadership that you understand you had to kind of reflect in order for kind of growth to happen the way you want it to happen?
I would say to some respect, I've always been that way. And honestly, it really comes from my father.
Mm.
As I was growing up, particularly as a teenager, I did work at the Y when I was a teenager. And just hearing, the other, like, especially older staff at the Y, hearing like the way that they would speak about my dad and how they respected him and they knew that he respected them. I think that was instilled in all my siblings and myself. And I think that's always been the approach, is that, listen to the people, listen, that's the key. Listen to the folks and then try to help them to overcome those obstacles, not be for a lack of a better word, and I hate to use this, but like a dictatorial, where it's like you're going to do this because I said so. And that's not ever been the case for me. Certainly, I have grown over the years because sometimes you can be a little too empathetic. Try to give people more than two chances or whatever that, and that has really, a few times come to be an issue. That again, that created another problem that I had to overcome, which I learned from. So, listening is key, so you understand the situation, so that you don't make a hasty decision. So that's how I would hope. I'm portraying to the folks that are looking for advice or looking for a way to overcome those same obstacles.
I appreciate that. And yeah, I think and I appreciate you sharing kind of the vulnerability of, um, you've learned over the years, right? Those kind of leadership lessons as you kind of reflect and say, okay, in the example you gave, kind of that, we've talked kind of that balance between that care and accountability. You want to
Mhm.
certainly show the people how empathetic and the listening and all that. But at the end of the day, you've got tremendous work, the Y is doing. So that accountability for the people that you serve. And I'd like to kind of use that as a little segue to talk about the work of the YMCA. For those listening, and because you and I have talked about this too, um, community perception sometimes can be, oh, it's the workout place. It's where my kids play flag football or basketball or we go swimming. Um, Tell us more about the depth and breadth of the services of the YMCA, and some of the partnerships that you have in the way that you're working on some really serious, important community initiatives that go well beyond the four walls of each of your locations.
Sure. Yeah. Yes, the Y has those things that you mentioned, fitness and swim lessons and so forth, but we're so much more than that. I like to refer to the Y as many nonprofits, not just one, because over the years, and for your listeners' sake, the Y of Greater Erie has been around now for 100, well, next month it'll be 166 years. And so we've adapted to what the needs are of the community over that very long period of time. I mean, just at its core, at the very beginning, the community saw that a lot of immigrants were coming into the city to work in the fishing and shipbuilding industry, and they did not know how to speak English. They did not have an education. And one of the very first programs here at the Y was adult education and English as a second language, which then eventually led to the creation of the first public library in the city of Erie out of that. So you can see how it's evolved from that and to where it is now. Yes, the Y probably in the mid 70s all the way up until I would say the mid to late 90s really shifted focus heavily in fitness. And it's unfortunate that that happened. So it's taking a little bit of time for us to recalibrate as a national organization. Again, nationally, we've been around 175 years and there's a lot of history, invented basketball, invented volleyball. So there's a lot there that we need to get back to those roots. So yeah, from our perspective, the other things we serve hundreds of kids every day, from infants all the way up to school age. We have a very large preschool program, and quite frankly, a lot of the folks that participate in our programs are folks that they have to work. Both of the parents have to work, and they need care all day so that they can work. And we want to be that quality education location for their kids that as they grow through the Y and as they become older that hopefully they become Y members and want to give back. You asked about some more specific some of the programming that we're doing now. Yeah, I mean we offer some chronic disease programming across our locations, but the key to that is to meet the need where it is most needed. So we just don't just do those within our four walls, so to speak. We go out into churches. We've offered a blood pressure self-monitoring class for clients at the Erie City Mission. It's wherever that need might be. For example, we serve you know not quite 100. Our goal is to get to 200 in our teen center each year, where they come through and learn life skills. They have an opportunity to meet mentors, learn a little bit about some of the programming we do is how to write music, how to record music, how to edit videos. We actually have cooking demonstrations. We have how they should write a resume, things like that. So that's just another example. Whenever something comes up in the community, I'm proud to say that people do reach out to us, and we have a conversation. And if it's something that we can help with, then we will do everything that we can to try to partner. That's the key is partner. You mentioned partnerships. We couldn't do the things that we're doing without partnerships. We in no means are going to say that the Y does this and we do it alone, and that is not the case. And I boil that down to our partners of our employees. We partner with them to hopefully help them understand what they're doing to make an impact in the community. You asked about particular partnerships. A couple of them that are going on right now that are kind of in the infancy. At our Glenwood location, we partner with Family Services to offer what we would call a school-based Big Brothers and Big Sisters program. Typically, Big Brothers and Big Sisters volunteers, they would, go pick the child up at their house and go do activities. This is more of a setting where volunteers, bigs, come into the Y in our after-school program, and they are assigned a child that they mentor. That they take them to the gym to play basketball, or if they're old enough, we put them through an orientation on how to use the machines and so forth. So that's an opportunity for them to do an after-school activity with a mentor. One of the newer partnerships, I should say, new in the respect of we've always partnered with the United Way in some capacity. We've been a United Way organization forever until, obviously they've shifted their focus. But what's great about that is that we've been able to have the opportunity to partner with them over the years. A few years back, we did a out of school time program in the summer for summer learning loss called Power Scholars. And we piloted that at Piper Burley in conjunction with the United Way. This is when they were just starting to roll out the idea of having community schools, and it was very successful. It's shifted now that the school district themselves offers that program, and that's great. They have the resources and capability to do that, and we will continue to support that and then help them in whatever way possible. But this new program that we are doing with the United Way, we just received or they just received a VIP grant that they applied for, that we were partnering agency to run what's called the Introduction to Sports program. We do this at our location, at our Y locations, but what this is it's supposed to introduce, young people to the concept of sports. And it's not about just the sport itself. It's about the all the periphery things that happen when you're part of a team, being a teammate, understanding competition, understanding how to deal with, losing and winning and so forth. So we're excited to start that partnership here later this fall and early winter. We're going to start piloting at 4 schools with by year 3, we'll be in all the Erie City schools offering this at least one time per week for 8-week sessions. So that's a recent partnership that we're doing as well. And there's some others too, if you'd like me to name those. But I always encourage people to look at our website, ymcaerie.org, and you can kind of click around and see what's going on.
Amazing, right? And you said it. For as much as you just talked, there's still more, right? There's still other services. There's still other needs of the community that you're meeting. So as we kind of then draw that parallel back to kind of the people, the challenge of wanting to be responsive to those needs, but obviously needing the people. I know one of the challenges that you mentioned is staffing, right? We're in this age of trying to fill the seats with good people, with people that are wanting to work, and particularly for you and the work that you do, so mission focused and mission important. Talk to us, to me, about just the challenges with that, right? The challenge in terms of meeting those needs with the people, but then also your approach, kind of like you touched on before, about how you recruit good people, and then ultimately the culture that you have built and you continue to build there, deploying good people to do such important work.
Sure. I mean, it's I guess a dilemma, so to speak, across all sectors of business, is that staffing, I guess just being able to recruit the staff in the first place has been a challenge, particularly since the pandemic. It actually started a couple of years before the pandemic, and so we're all, whether it be retail or food service or our YMCA's, all competing for what seems to be a less amount of people that are interested in doing particular work. So we have to do a good job of really selling, what it is they're going to be doing when they come to the Y. Like, for example, when you're recruiting someone who, you feel might want to work with children, especially young children, is you can't just look at it as a job. It is an opportunity for you to mentor a young person that as they get older and hopefully as an adult, they will remember you as that person who made an impact in their lives. Could be your swim lesson instructor. It could be the referee who helped out in youth sports, whatever that is. Trying to really twist, turn um, the ask, I guess, or the contact into a bigger thing. You're bigger than just the job itself, and it's a challenge. I mean, people are different phases of life, or um, sometimes that's just not what they're looking for. It's just the job, and so we as a staff try to do a better job of hopefully selling that portion of the impact that they could be making. And that's really my job, to make sure that everyone continues to understand all of the things that we're doing and impact. And it goes back to storytelling. When I get the opportunity to do our new employee orientation each month, the very first question, well, what I do is myself and our HR director, we introduce ourselves, and then we share how our, excuse me, our connection to the why is, our why story, so to speak. And so we ask them, what is your connection to the why? What was your first exposure? And it's very rewarding and interesting to hear the connection, as little as, well, I played soccer as a young person at the Y, to, gosh, I was in the after school program. I've been at the Y since I was a baby. So, it's great to hear that. So those are the types of things that we kind of really need to adapt to or play into when it comes to trying to recruit people. Now, on the retention side, it's all about those relationships and communication. I always try to emphasize that communication, communication, communication. That is the key, even down to just the smallest level. I always admit I'm not perfect. Sometimes I forget a person or a group, and I just have to apologize and say, you know what, you're right. I forgot that, and I will try to be better. Hopefully, they'll see that I'm not perfect, and they'll understand that I do value that is something that's important, and I want them to hold me accountable to do that as well. So I think all those things collectively together, I would hope um, balance us out in terms of recruitment and retention. I know I've shared with you, we have I call her a young lady. She's actually only just a few years younger than me, and she's worked for the Y for 26 years. And she has worked as a teacher in our toddler classroom the entire 26 years of her career.
Hmm.
She loves that job. She loves those kids. And honestly, the funniest part, or to me, it's funny. To her, is that she has a couple of folks who are now bringing their toddlers to the program that she had as toddlers.
Amazing.
But she just sees the impact and reward. And I talked to her about, she loves her job, and she's very good at it. So we use her as a mentor to new people that are coming in, even at other locations. So that's a huge benefit as well.
I love that, and I think it relates to, in terms of, just to touch again on the culture that you're building, and you've mentioned some things that your actions, the way that you go about bringing people in, understanding the why behind it, the WHY behind the why, which is really the key. Just in terms of the structure, we mentioned the size of your organization. Just
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about what that looks like, right? So you're in the CEO seat. You've got multiple locations. You've got multiple childcare locations. You've got,
Yeah.
your sort of anchor locations, if you will. Just talk a little about how you approach that, and just even the actual structure of how your kind of executive team, and how that trickles down, how what your approach is on that, but also what some of the challenges are there. And you mentioned communication a little bit being one of those.
Sure. Well, I guess first I'll just state that yes, we're the YMCA of Greater Erie, so we are an association of multiple branches and sites. We have our four main sites, which is Glenwood, East Side, downtown and county in Edinburgh, and then we have our outdoor rec center, Camp Sherwin in Lake City. So those are kind of our anchor sites that you mentioned. But then we have nine, actually now 10, excuse me, in Fairview Methodist Church, sites where we offer a variety of programming from infants, toddlers, preschool, before and after
Mm.
school care. So those are some sites that we manage. We also, in the summertime, manage the Parks and Recs program for the city of Erie, and we've done that since actually the late 60s. We also run the pool at Roger Young Park. We've done that for many years now as well. And we run the Brian Lee Crosby Learn to Swim program for the city of Erie. So we do free swim lessons for kids, for youth, at both the downtown location and at Roger Young. And then I mentioned earlier that we have programming that happens at different, like I mentioned, the chronic disease programming that we've done at churches and the things we've done with the mission. So in the scope of this like actual structure, that's how we're set up. Um, in terms of the leadership, yes, there's myself, and then the management team is made up of, or executive team is made up of our CFO and our COO and our vice president of both our vice president of marketing and development, our vice president of youth development. Those are kind of like the corporate folks who help out with the day-to-day, but the day-to-day folks down on the ground are our executive directors, our site directors. And from a perspective, like the main site leadership, our COO oversees their, what they're doing at their branches with my help and guidance through our strategic planning process. And then our vice president of youth development oversees all of like our, infant toddler out of school time care with her team as well. So that's how we're set up as a structure. Now, when it comes to your question about how do I lead those folks, is that it's about communication. We meet every other week as a team. I try to make it out to the branches. I don't as much anymore now that our COO kind of oversees. I don't want to be seen more than he is, kind of thing. So I just go at different times. So that way the members, and of course I said I've worked at all of them, so I know people at all these locations. Even at Eastside I didn't work at, I still know a lot of folks over there. And I just want the staff to see that I value them and that I want to be there and just show that I support them. And that's hopefully me doing that is helping the folks who lead at those locations to also do the same thing, that they're willing to step in and learn from them and so forth. So I guess I hope that answers your question, but that's kind of how I look at it. I also, as you know, because we worked with you as action coach. Um, it's about development too, continuing to develop as a team. Our CEO was here for 20 years, and many of the folks that are on that executive team have been here many years of that time. So, just trying to, I guess, make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of how I lead versus how he led. So it's always continuing to make sure that that's at the forefront, that we're growing together as a team, but then taking those skills and things that we're developing and working on together as a team, and hopefully I hate to use the word, I guess, pushing it down so that
Mm.
everyone else is also doing that, because you said culture starts at the top, so it's gotta, keep. I guess I just always keep going back to is that we're not perfect, and I always say that about myself, and I want people to hold me accountable. I hope that right there shows that the folks that I lead are saying the same thing to the people that they lead.
Well said. I appreciate you sharing that. And yes, the whole scope, I think, of the challenge you have with a large organization doing important work, setting the tone at the top, you to your executive team, and then yeah, kind of that deployment throughout the organization, sort of cascading down through, again, with the challenges you talked about with staffing and recruitment. But I will say too, you mentioned about, kind of your core team and the number of years that people stay. That's a credit to you. It's a credit to the organization because clearly they're encouraged and driven by the purpose and the mission of the Y, the work that they do, and obviously the culture that you've built. Jim, we could continue to talk a long time. We'll start to wrap this up. And you've shared some real gems already, just as far as the leadership seat. I guess as a final word to the viewers, something that you can share just in terms of an overriding lesson. Again, you've touched on a lot already, but the overriding lesson to kind of your leadership style, lesson learned. You mentioned learning things from your father, things being modeled for you. What is, I guess, kind of one more key takeaway that you might share from your leadership seat that you've learned and you've kind of grown into through your leadership journey?
I guess the thing I always refer back to is learning never ends. And I think when people think about learning, they think of book learning or of classroom learning, and that's that's some of it, yes. But we're really learning never ends in terms of um, you're learning from others. So the people you lead, you're learning how you should lead them by how they respond to you. And what I mean by that is that I ask them to say, how would you, or what is the best way for me to help you be the best that you are, and help me learn how I can be better at that. So I'm learning, I oversee all these folks and everything, and I'm learning as where I need to be to help them and where I need to be better to help them. So learning is definitely key. The other thing I've always said is that if you're not willing to honestly step in when you're needed to in a situation, whatever that situation is, to fix it, help with it, lead it in another direction, then that's a tough thing to work on, but it's something you really need to concentrate on. You, you can't be afraid when things aren't going well.
Mm.
That's how you learn. And one thing I always learned from my father, and actually even two CEOs ago, Al Shell, was that if something comes up you is critical, you need to address it immediately. You can't just sit on it, because the expectation is that you're the leader. They're looking to you to address it.
Mm.
It may not be the right answer, but at least they're looking for you to address that. I hope that wraps it all up into what I'm trying to say. But learning, communication are the keys. I have a book that I just got at a conference. John Kidwell. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's actually a former Y executive who now does leadership consulting and training, particularly around fundraising. And his book is called Redefine Your Servant Leadership, because it's funny,
Mm.
because people will ask, well, what type of leader are you in some circumstances? And for this to say redefine your specific leadership style, it's been an interesting read I mean, because it assumes you are that person. But as you read the book, maybe you aren't that servant leader. You're more that dynamic. I know there's all different leadership types, but so it's been a good read. So yeah, I read books too. So
Yeah, well, I love that. And having got to know you a little bit, I know you've got that servant leader's heart. But appreciate that self-reflection and that ability to have the kind of emotional intelligence to understand. And from what else I heard you say, that adaptability, right? Those things that you've kind of talked about, that active listening to your people, remaining adaptable to the situation. I think, you're now, 30 years and counting with the YMCA, 175 years and counting with the national organization.
Mhm.
Just really cool story, just in terms of the evolution of not only the organization, but I think just how you personally have mirrored that, and also the organization here in Northwest Pennsylvania that's kind of mirrored that as well too, kind of that evolution. So, Jim, I appreciate the time. The conversation was fantastic. So thank you for
Sure.
sharing that. You mentioned where people can find out more. Just one more time, the website, the best way for people to find out about the
Yeah,
YMCA.
absolutely. YMCAErie.org. Um, I mean, or just Google
That's it.
YMCA. We usually come to the top. It's either us or YUSA in Chicago. So,
Yeah, yeah, and like you said, lots going on. Particularly, we're in the season where we're coming out of the spring into the summer. I know that's busy times with all the
yeah,
things that you
transitioning into
mentioned.
summer camp. Yep.
Yeah, so therefore, I do. I appreciate the time, Jim. Thanks for being on the show, and look forward to speaking again soon.
Great. Thanks, Matt.